A very good afternoon to all. Today we all are here for a very important ethics lecture, and this is the first time we are having a lecture in physical form. Since the last 5 years, we have started these lecture series and under the CSIR guidelines for ethics in research and governance. So, starting with the program, I will first request Professor Ranjana Agarwal to please come on dais and preside the function. Madam DG CSIR is unable to come today because of her urgent meeting. So, we will now request Madam, please come. And our SEC, Madam, please come. SEC Chairperson, Dr. Viswajanani, please join her. Please come on the dais. And our chief guest, Professor Ram Gopal Rao, please come, sir. He is the man of the moment today, and he will inspire us with his research and experience on the scientific ethics, which we have to follow as a scientific organization. Welcome, sir, and welcome, madam. Now I will hand over the dice to Dr. Viswajanani, who is the chairperson of SEC of CSIR headquarters.
Thank you, Anjana. Namaste to all. Good afternoon. Welcome to the guest lecture on Science with a Conscience, Fostering Integrity in Innovation by Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao. He is the Group Vice Chancellor of BITS Pilani Institutions and former Director IIT Delhi. May I request Dr. Ranjana Agarwal to please welcome Professor Rao. An introduction to Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao. Professor Rao is currently the Vice Chancellor for the Birla Institute of Technology and Science, BITS Pilani Group of Institutions. Prior to joining the BITS Group in 2023, Professor Rao had served as the Director of IIT Delhi for 6 years during 2016 to 2021, and as a Chair Professor for Nanoelectronics at both IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi. Professor Rao is a nanoelectronics researcher with over 500 research papers and 50 patents, which include 20 issued US patents. 15 of his patents have been licensed to industries for commercialization. The IP on complementary metal oxide semiconductor system on chip applications developed in his group is now used in hundreds of millions of ICs sold all over the world. Professor Rao is a co-founder of 2 deep technology startups at IIT Bombay, NanoSniff and SoilSense, which has successful commercial products in the market. For his research accomplishments, Professor Rao has been elected as a Fellow of the IEEE, a Fellow of the World Academy of Sciences TWAS, the Indian National Academy of Engineering INAE, the Indian Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Sciences, and the Indian National Science Academy. 52 PhD students have graduated so far under his supervision and are working in leading academic institutions, semiconductor industries all over the world, including in India. Professor Rao's research and leadership contributions have been recognized with over 40 awards and honors in the country and abroad. He is a recipient of 3 honorary doctorates. The recognitions of Professor Rao include the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Sciences, Infosys Prize, the IEEE EDS Education Award, and many others. Professor Rao serves on the editorial advisory boards of several leading international journals, such as the ACS, Nanoletters, AIP Applied Physics Reviews, IEEE Journal on Flexible Electronics, and many more. Professor Rao has delivered over 200 plenary, keynote, and invited lectures all over the world. Welcome, Professor Rao, to CSIR. A warm welcome from the CSIR family. Many of our laboratories, 37 across the country, have joined us online. And we do have representation from the Delhi-based laboratories here in this auditorium. Welcome to all the participants and delegates. Professor Rao, we have at the CSIR introduced the CSIR guidelines for ethics and research and governance. This was brought in 2019, and later further to the governing body approval, we had implemented in the year February 2020. So this CSIR guidelines for ethics in research covers many aspects, including defining what is scientific misconduct. It talks about good scientific practices, gender issues, dealing with misconducts, what kind of reports and publications come under this particular umbrella of the guidelines, intellectual property, ethics in governance and conflict of interest, and many more. Standing publications, ethics and scientific vigilance committees, SEC, is present in the CSIR headquarters as well as across all the CSIR laboratories to which plays an advisory role and ensures awareness programs periodically so that we observe high integrity and ethics in the CSIR system. We are now very eager to looking forward to your lecture, especially Science with a Conscience. So Professor Rao, I welcome you to please deliver your lecture.
That's okay. Thank you. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I'm that way not new to the CSIR system. I have chaired a couple of RCs of CSIR labs and have been connected with CSIR. So in multiple ways, I'm currently on the advisory board of CSIR also. So that way, I think it's all a system that I'm very familiar with. And so in India, my presentation is loaded now. Okay, I can go to the first one. Yeah. So I thought I will talk about this science with a conscience and fostering integrity in innovation. This is slowly becoming a problem in the country. I mean, there was a time when this was unheard of. Things were all pretty good. But for the past, I would say 5 years, this has actually become a menace right now, because I think unless we arrest this trend, I am really worried the entire, the credibility of the system will be lost, soon. So I think a time has come for all of us to talk about this publicly and openly. I've also been writing about it in newspapers and even in articles and all of that, because I think that awareness is becoming very important. So I served these 3 institutions basically, 18 years at IIT Bombay, 7 years at IIT Delhi, and now 2.5 years in BITS Pilani. All these 3 institutions, touch wood, have been pretty clean. There are no major incidences of predatory journals or retractions and all of that. Once in a while, some retractions happen, but sometimes it's also, because of genuine mistakes. Not that every retraction is bad. So once in a while, in any system, a few retractions happen for reasons, which are purely, human errors. But otherwise, these 3 institutions have been pretty clean so far, and that is the way I would hope to see, every institute to be in the country. But I will also, highlight the changes that are taking place and how we all need to be concerned, about the integrity of our science. This is one slide where, I will just talk about, I will show you in numbers where India stands, right? India, in terms of ranks, these are all, international ranks and other things. So India, in terms of number of institutions, we have more institutions than China. And that's because we have so many institutions. Every institute is tiny, right? Even 23 IITs admit about 17,000 students this year. It's just 17,000. One university in US would admit that many students. So though we have built a lot of institutions, but I think our institutions haven't really scaled up. And JNCSR, I'm currently chairman of JNCSR board. and Jain CSR 40 faculty members, right? I mean, Jain CSR should be having 300 faculty members because it's such a great institution, but just 40 faculty members is a DST institute, as you know. I think that is our problem. We have created lots of institutions, but we haven't been able to scale them up. I think that is our one of the big challenges. And enrolled students in higher educational institutions, we are just behind China. And there are about 43 million students today studying in the university system, and about 300,000 are doing PhD, right, in all these institutions. So we have about 43 million, but our gross enrollment ratio is still just about 27%, meaning only 1 in 4 students in the age group when they should be in the colleges is actually able to go to colleges today, because we don't have enough capacity available for more people to go to higher educational institutions. And that is again because our institutions haven't scaled much. They have remained pretty small for a size of this country. IIT Delhi, for example, should be at least 4 times larger than what it is today. I think it can have extension campuses and it should grow. All good institutions should grow in this country, which unfortunately has not happened. And in terms of research output, we are currently 3rd in the world. So we are publishing lots of papers, but that is where the problems are also arising right now, because we are in a mad race to publish papers now. And so that's creating all kinds of challenges for the system. And I will also tell you how we can address some of these. And patents, we were not filing enough patents, but now suddenly we are 6th in the world when it comes to patent filings. I think we are again beginning to file lots of patents today, which is again a good thing, but there are also not so good things happening when it comes to the patent filings. And we are 9th for citations. So in terms of quality, we are not as good as the number of papers we write, but even the citations are getting gamed right now. I mean, people have figured out a way to boost their citations, which is again another major concern for the country. And we are 39th for innovation. Innovation is all about using this knowledge for societal benefit. That's how at least the innovation is defined here. So you generated some knowledge, and then what have you done with that, right? So that is where innovation comes. So on the innovation front, we aren't doing all that great. Most of our projects, right, stop with publication of a paper. In academic institutions now, once you publish a paper, the project is over. Then you go to next project and you publish more papers. So that is how Indian research is currently being conducted. As a result, on the innovation front, the translation of knowledge into wealth, right? That translation, we are not very successful as it. We are not spending enough money. That is our biggest challenge right now. India ranks 54th in the world when it comes to percentage of GDP allocation for research. We were spending 0.85% of GDP, but now it has come down to 0.65%. And so we are not spending enough money. That is the biggest challenge right now. So everything is scarcity driven, kind of activity right now. I mean, so that's another big challenge that we are facing right now. And we don't have enough researchers. We are currently ranked 83rd in the world when it comes to number of researchers per million population. We have just about 280 scientists per million population. US would have 4,500 scientists per million population. China would have 2,000 scientists per million population. So India, despite the large population, the number of scientists are very few right now. And that's again a major problem. So in any area you take, you can count on your fingers how many people are doing great work, right? That's a major problem. We need to boost, or we need to increase the number of scientists in the country right now. We are at least 6 times lower compared to China in terms of number of scientists. And as you can see, that also reflects in the quantum of research and everything that happens there. Academia industry collaborations, there is not much that you can talk about. And according to these world rankings, we
Good. Hello, we are not able to hear.
We are not able to hear.
Stuff offline. So as a result, the net is always the bad thing. Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah. So I think so. This is where India currently stands, and so there are a few good things, but not so good things. All of that is the way India is, of course. And so having said that, the research misconduct, I will show you with real data how the research misconduct is growing, and India is now ranked among the top 3 countries when it comes to research misconduct, and there is enough evidence of that now. And the research misconduct does a lot of things wrong. I mean, there is a nice report by the US National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine. They all came together in 2017. There is a nice article on in fact it's a complete document on fostering integrity in science, and they just listed out the consequences. I think these are all very logical. So what basically happens is, when there is a detrimental research practice, right, the cost of research that is irreproducible due to the bad practices, because somebody publishes a paper, right, which is wrong to start with, and so many people think it is right and keep working on that, and in the process you waste so much of resource in following a lead which was wrong to start with, right? And that's how lot of and by the time you discover that the original paper was wrong, a lot of damage would have been done. With vaccine research, for example, a lot of that has already happened the world over. And similarly, the misconduct prevented or delayed, that also impacts the integrity part of it. The delays in refuting the mistaken results, there is always a delay. You publish a paper, initially it is very highly cited, but it takes invariably a few years for one to realize that what was published was wrong. And it also trains poorly trained students and researchers. People who go to such groups, right, also tend to follow similar practices. And I have often seen that depending on which institution somebody has worked or done, you can pretty much see the behavior of the person, right? The same person joining an organization which has a lot of high integrity, right, joining another organization where integrity is compromised, you see that behavioral pattern. So I think eventually you become what you see, right? When you see that people all around us are practicing all those practices, you also think that it's normal to do so, and that is how the research culture gets eroded, which is therefore a very important thing for the organizations to maintain the good research integrity, because if we don't do that, it spreads like a virus. And in India, my worry is, I think we are reaching the tipping point right now, which is a cause of concern. And misallocated credit, people get a lot of credit for the wrong results, but then by the time it is realized, it's already too late, kind of a thing. And so there's a lot of cost associated with that fabricated, falsified research, and the institutional investigations. As directors, always some complaint or the other about plagiarism and all of that. These drain the system basically, because you have committees and they have to go through an entire inquiry process, write to the editors. It's a painful process. You don't want to go through that. And education and careers are sidetracked, and cost of research to extend the fabricated results, public health costs from belief in fabricated results, particularly if it is healthcare research, a lot of cost is associated with that. Loss of public confidence. Now I can see, if you go to LinkedIn, right, and even Twitter, you see lots of reports about plagiarism, misconduct, and some institutions doing things in a wrong way to get better in the rankings and other things. It has become such a common practice now, and it's eventually eroding the public trust in science, and which is something which is not good at all. So therefore, the lot of direct costs, lost years of training and work, advance of knowledge is impaired at the end of the day. Science as an institution is less effective and trusted. I think these are the wrong things that will happen if we don't maintain the ethics in the institutions. So I think once the institutional ethical standards are maintained, people who join such organizations also tend to follow those ethical practices, because it's often the peer pressure, right? If I am working in IIT Bombay and everybody is publishing papers in the electrical department. I'm an electrical engineer. Everybody is publishing papers in certain kinds of journals, which are all good tier 1 kind of journals. And if I suddenly start publishing in very low quality journals, the whole department will pounce upon me, will say that this person is not doing the right thing, and there will be a lot of peer pressure on me. So therefore, I wouldn't even dare publish in journals where my colleagues are not publishing. And that's how you maintain those ethical standards. But then you join other organization, right, from that place, and there everybody is publishing papers in let's say quality, third quality kind of journals and poor quality kind of journals. And then I think that it's okay to publish here. Therefore, I would have written 10 more papers than what I would have written at IIT Bombay, and that's how I continue to add to that culture, and then that's how things actually become bad. So therefore, at the institutional level, maintaining those ethical standards is very important, for people to behave in a certain way. Like I said, basically you become what you see. So therefore, it's very important that they see all around them high ethical standards and morals and integrity and all of that. So I think the role lies on the institutional heads, institutional culture when it comes to maintaining the ethical standards. And this is a very recent study. Somebody has come up with this Research Integrity Risk Index, RI square. And this is a very nice kind of a study which has just been published. And what they have basically looked at is they have calculated an index, right, the Research Integrity Risk Index. And so they have looked at the retraction rate, right, in which in some institutions they are only rating the institutions now, and they are looking at how many papers have been retracted for wrong data, for misrepresentation of facts, and all of those kind of reasons. So there is a problem there, and then the normalized delisted rate, right. So what also happens is you publish in a journal, right, which is already a very poor quality journal, but you publish it because it is indexed in SCI or some database, right? And then, but even those databases also realize that the journal is a poor quality. At some point, they delist that journal. It was SCI index journal, but it is not right now, right? It was Web of Science index journal, but it is not right now. So they also looked at how many people have published papers in these index journals, which have later been delisted. So which essentially shows that they are all these border kind of journals which were there or not there kind of a thing, right? Which again shows that you are talking of poor quality research. So what these guys have done is basically they looked at the normalized retraction rate, normalized delisted rate, and took the average of these two, and then came up with an index which is normalized to the global scale. Right? They looked at all the countries, all the institutions, and then they looked at the data of retractions, looked at the data of publications in delisted journals, and came up with an index. And with that, now they are ranking the nations, right? Which nation has good research integrity, which nation doesn't have good research integrity. So that is basically how it is done, and it's a very detailed study, and it quantifies the proportion of whatever I mentioned here. So this is the reference to that paper. It's available now, for you to look at in LinkedIn. I also shared it on my LinkedIn channels, and it is actually making a lot of news already. Right? It's a very recent paper, and these rankings have come just recently. And they flagged the countries based on red flag, high risk, watch list, normal variation, and low risk. Right? These are the 5 categories, and the red flag is where that research integrity index is crossing a certain threshold, right? And if it is within this threshold, high risk, watch list is somewhere within these thresholds, and normal is here, and the low risk is here. So the color codes are this. The darker shades would mean the high risk, the red flags, high risk kind of category, right? The lighter shades would mean everything is fine, right? And you can see that India is in the dark red kind of a thing already, right? And who are we competing with? We are competing with Pakistan, right? So that is the problem, right? I mean, so this is where the real worry lies right now. So you can see that even the UAE, the Saudi Arabia, some of these countries also, just publishing left and right in all kinds of journals, right? I mean, so this is the challenge right now. I think, if not addressed, I think this can become a very big issue. Whereas the countries here, they are still in the lighter shades, major parts of America and all of that. But this is the region where you see, the a big challenge of retractions and a big challenge of research integrity kind of issues. I mean, you can actually, this entire thing, like I said, go to this this thing, and then you can, for each country, you can hover above that, and you can find its index, and then it's nicely categorized and all of that. And so this is where India is, and these are the countries which need to watch out. And in India, it's not that only the private institutions are doing this, but even the public funded institutions have now fallen prey to all of that data. Otherwise, you thought that as a government servant, how does it matter? Anyway, my promotion, all of that will happen. Why I don't need to publish in those journals? But it's not so anymore. Thanks to the reasons I will show you. Right, everybody is under pressure now to publish more papers. It's all has become publish or perish kind of a culture. Right, in that culture, whatever you want to publish, you need to publish. Right, so that's where these things have become a big issue. Right, and even the patents thing. Right, India, I told you, is now ranked 6th in the world for the patents, and so this is how China is filing lots of patents now. China has overtaken US in almost everything, in research numbers, the research publications, or in patents. China is now #1. And now with Trump coming there, I don't know what will happen to US now. It's everybody's question. So this is our best opportunity to go to 2nd place. We are at the 3rd position now for research at least, but let's wait and see what happens to the US universities now. But for patents, India is here, right? So which is again good. A lot of patent applications are being filed, and we are growing in double digits now for almost like 5 years. Lots of patents are being filed, right? But that's again the problem, right? We are beginning to game the patent ecosystem. And if you look at one single university, I don't know this university, so I've just taken it from, there is a India Research Watchdog. And these guys, a group of researchers, have come together, and they have been, publishing those studies and publishing such tables and all that. I have taken it from them. I have not personally verified, so I don't, want to say anything more than the names of institutions. But Chandigarh University, one university, has actually published more patents than all the IITs together, all the 23 IITs together. I mean, for me, a normal person, there is something wrong. Right? I mean, you can't file so many patents from one single university, right? If you are filing the real, what is the definition of a patent, right? That's why are they filing so many patents? The reason why they are filing so many patents is the institutional rankings, right? What Ministry of Education rankings, they started counting the number of patents filed, right? Not granted. The granted will happen sometime later. Even with filing more and more patents, you can get higher rankings. Right? So now this university gets the highest marks for patent filings, and I have looked at only 2% of their patents are granted. But by the time it's granted, it's like 4 years, 5 years from now. But then your ranking will come next year, right? You are already now high in ranking, but the patent has not been granted, doesn't really matter to anyone. So I think that is the kind of a game that people are fighting. I mean, why is Ministry of Education looking at filed patents and not granted patents, right? They can actually look at the granted patents, and then this problem will go away. But then these are all ministries, right? I mean, for ministries to understand that there is a problem and react to that and correct it will be, 1 decade. And that's exactly what is happening with these kind of cases. But in the process, you are encouraging, all this kind of a behavior from these institutions. I mean, I know CSIR used to file lots of patents, but now, thankfully you are not filing so many patents now. There are proper checks and balances. I think, all of these are good patents that way. But this is the problem that you are facing right now. So that we are facing as a country right now. And there are lots of things which are going wrong with patents. Very low innovation, inflated claims, buying investor slots. I keep receiving mails now, because now I am Vice Chancellor, saying that, that you can buy patent now, right? I can even buy a first slot in the patent, or second slot in the patent, or third slot in the patent for different prices, right? And somebody will file on my behalf, and then I just need to pay money and there will be a patent in my CV because of that, and I can decide which slot I want to buy, and then I can become an inventor kind of a thing overnight. And this racket is openly going on. Whenever I receive such such offers, I keep forwarding them to AICTE and UGC, but even these agencies do nothing, right? I mean, they also have so many things on their plate, managing 1,000 universities and all of that. They don't have time to basically act on anything which is an email from somebody kind of a thing. So this is again a big challenge. The ghost writing of patent drafts, filing without any commercial intent, patent clustering, duplication of patents, all kinds of things are happening now in this system. So even people are beginning to get international patents now. I thought you can do all of this only with Indian patents, but recently I read a report in the UK that many Indian academics are for the promotion kind of a criteria, because somebody said you want only international patents. Now they are also filing such dubious design registrations in the UK, and they are being passed off as patents, and then they are using it to get promotions and all of that. So I think this is what is happening. Even our own Indian Patent Office has cautioned people last year, fraudsters seeking money to facilitate IP applications and all of that. Now it has become a free game for everybody. Just filing more patents gets you a better ranking. So therefore, file as many patents as you can, kind of a thing. It doesn't cost money to file an Indian patent, so it's not so much of a problem. This is the problem. If you ask me, I would blame the NIRF, the National Institutional Ranking Framework, which is the Ministry of Education, ranking. And because government is ranking you, you can't say that I will not participate. You have no choice but to participate. And if you participate and don't rank well, right, then somebody will hold you responsible. And I remember a meeting which, when I was director at IIT Delhi, a meeting chaired by the minister, right, and minister was scolding an IIT which has gone down in the NIRF ranking. They were ranked 4th in the previous ranking. They have become 5th right now. So he was telling them, you guys are not doing anything, and this is wrong, that is wrong, and he scolded the director. Then he goes to the director. Their rank became 5th to 4th, right? So basically they exchanged the slots, and he was praising the director. I said, sir, but for them to go down, these people have to go up, right? Otherwise it won't really happen. It's the same country, right? If I have to go to 5th position, somebody has to vacate that slot. So now as a country, we haven't gained anything. Right? Even if you look at top 10 IITs, and then if one IIT goes up, other IIT comes down, there is nothing for the country to be celebrating about it, because as a country, it's a zero-sum game. Right? If some institutions have gone down, some institutions have gone up, how does it matter? At the end of the day, you want all your institutions to go up. Right? So my suggestions to NIRF, in fact, I wrote a letter to minister and all that, saying that take 50 world-class institutions. Right? Berkeley, Stanford, MITs, rank all the Indian institutions now with respect to these 50 institutions. That way, I know I am doing very well in India, but how do I compare myself, let's say, to Stanford, right? So if you now put them as the benchmark, the best institutions in the world, start comparing our institutions with those top 50 institutions in the world, then we have something to aspire for. Otherwise, just putting that race among the institutions, you compete with each other, for that same slot, and finally, as a country, you don't gain anything. So I think this is what we need to be doing. Our benchmark should not be another institute versus other institute. The benchmark needs to be the top international institutions, and then compete with them to see how we are raising in our stature when it comes to some of these. So I have been writing, I think I don't know how many of you have read it, but I keep writing in Times of India. Many of these I keep highlighting. I wrote actually a paper on NIRF in the Current Science, and the NAC also. Many of you might have read the news that the NAC, they got arrested and all of that. But these things are open secrets. Everybody knows, how the NAC ratings were done. We did not do anything for 10 years. We allowed that behavior to continue in the country for 10 years, and suddenly you go and arrest somebody. I mean, the NAC always knew that those malpractices were happening. What were they doing? What was UGC doing? I think, in not acting at the right time is what encourages that behavior. When they see that some institute, by following that practice, has got A++ kind of a ranking, the other institutions also, follow a similar kind of a practice. And So this is what is the big problem right now. That is, I also recently wrote about ranking and this citation rat race, how it is hurting India's thing. So finally, this is that Goddard's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, right? That's what happens. So once you are, just chasing, some numbers, you just go after the numbers without worrying about, any other pathways or what is a good practice, what is a bad practice. You are just chasing those numbers. That is what has become right now, a big challenge for the country, and that needs to basically change. And I have been, a strong advocate of modifications and reforms in the NIRF. I have written publicly, I have written to the minister, I have written to the NIRF agency. I have done all of that from my side. It's not that I am just speaking. And NIRF now, there was a court case. There was actually a stay order against NIRF, right? And now I am told that NIRF is trying to relook at some of these metrics. And the only thing I told them was, we know there is a research integrity index, right? There is a way to calculate all of that. Now you calculate that and you give negative points to institutions, right, which are following those practices, right? Any institution which is doing those malpractices, you give negative points to them based on the calculations, which can easily be done by good librarians, right? And once you start punishing institutions, with negative marking, I can tell you this behavior will vanish in no time, right? Because now NIRF ranking, Government of India rankings are so important for every activity that once NIRF starts giving negative marking, I think this menace will go away. But that is something that we must have done 5 years ago, right? NIRF has been there for 5-6 years now. I think there was no reason to allow such a behavior, among the institutions, and now keep losing our credibility on the global scale. I think these are things that can easily be done. So basically the problem lies with this research and professional practice, which is all been counting, right? They are just counting the number of papers in SCI journals. Now to get to those SCI kind of journals, there are all kinds of journals listed in SCI. So you publish in those journals and a lot of fake data, a lot of plagiarism, all of that is happening. Retractions are increasing, but then the rankings are also going up. And institutions which figure prominently in the retractions are also the institutions which figure very high on the NIRF rankings right now, and which is what is the biggest concern. So I think these are the ways that I believe, and there's a huge fluctuation in the NIRF rankings. Institutions can go up and down by 30 points, the 30 rank points, right, in 1 year. What would change in an institute that I was ranked the 40th earlier, now I am getting ranked 10th, right? What would change in 1 year that something can become so much better, right? It's just that people are following such practices, and they saw that somebody has done that and gotten better rank. So I also want to do the same thing and get that better rank. That's exactly what is driving this behavior, and there is a way to actually address this kind of a thing. That's what it is. But it comes to the point, how do we build world-class institutions? I think rankings is not the way you can ever become better in the world rankings and all of that, right? Because rankings is a game that you can play, and then you basically help improve things. But what is the way we can build world-class institutions? How do we see all our IITs becoming Stanfords and MITs, right? And our second-tier institutions becoming IITs and all of that. That is what, as a country, we should be worried about, right? And that is where I mean, my biggest challenge is right now, building university is what many people think is university buildings, right? You just go to a university, see fancy buildings, and you think it's a great university, right? Building university is not university buildings. University is basically the faculty. Whenever somebody asks me the question, which institute should I choose, right? I tell them, go and look at the faculty profiles, right? Where they are able to attract good faculty, right? Where they pay their faculty, the MHRD supported salaries, right? What IITs are paying. Look at how many institutions in this country are paying IIT level salaries in the private sector. Go to that institute, because by paying that kind of salaries, they are able to attract good faculty, they are retaining talent, and when there are great people, automatically everything will be fine in those institutions. I can tell you, as per my informal study, there are only 4 private institutions in this country which are paying IIT salaries to their faculty. There are only 4 private institutions. BITS Pilani is one of them. BITS Pilani actually pays more than IIT salaries to all its 1,000 faculty. Our salary bill is the highest every year. We pay, like, our salary bill is now touching 500 crores every year. It costs money to hire good faculty and pay them, that kind of a salary, right? And there are 3 other private institutions which pay. Ashoka University is one of them, and so there are these kind of institutions which pay that kind of salary. But all others, a PhD gets 50,000 rupees, 60,000 rupees, and then but they will have nice air-conditioned rooms, lamps, and everything. Right? That is the problem. I think we are not investing in the people. We are rather investing in buildings just to pass them off as great universities, kind of a thing. That needs to change, and the faculty member's job has become so complicated right now. And as if I know CSIR scientist job also is equally complicated, but if we are a faculty member today, the number of things you are expected to do, right, is actually the academics will be a very small part of it. And so this is what is currently the problem. But the national education policy, which the government unveiled in 2020, is actually a great thing. That's a template for building world-class universities. If only we can implement that NEP in the spirit in which it is written, right? NEP can actually be a blueprint for us to build those world-class universities. I call the NEP as the moral movement for the country. What is a moral movement? For example, if you look at US, right? Whenever we think of great universities, we think of US, because almost all the great universities you want to attend are all in the US right now. How did US, universities, how did US universities achieve that preeminence? How did they become those centers of excellence in the world, right? US universities were not the best in the 19th century. Their growth all happened, in the last century. But US universities in 1800s, for example, the US was not the leading country in the world when it came to universities. It was England and Germany. Look at the early Nobel Prizes. All the early Nobel Prizes were all, Britishers and the Germans, right? German, when I was studying in Germany, their currency notes had their Nobel laureates, right? Their currency, Deutsche Mark, used to have their Nobel laureate and the work that the Nobel laureate has done on their currency notes, right? Not some some politician or somebody else. The Nobel laureates were on the currency notes of the German Deutsche Mark, and that's how they valued their science and their scientists, right? And but the US was not the greatest country in those days, and US actually was following the UK and Germany at that time. And but these countries, the England and Germany, which were the leading players in the world, their focus was mostly on classics, on theology, on natural sciences. That's how they were working, and the US universities were copying them. Just as we copy now what is happening in the West, what is happening in the US. US was copying what was happening in the Europe, in the 19th century, right? That's how it was. But when did it change for the US? Everything changed for the US with this act called the Morrill Act, right? That was introduced in 1862, which is known as the Land Grant University Model. The Land Grant University Model, the act in the US, was basically where US said, if you want to receive any favor from the government, right, the central or state, you have to work on such branches of learning, which are of relevance to the society. All that they did was they basically made their universities to connect with the society, connect with the societal problems, right? And until that time, they were following whatever was happening in Germany and UK. They were copying, and then they were doing similar kind of work. Through this act, Land Grant University Act, they basically said, now you start working on problems of the society. You do basic research, fundamental research, all of that is fine. But at the end of the day, the role of a university is to empower the people, empower the societies, build technologies, and solve the problems of the society. So that is what essentially the Land Grant University Act was. And every great university in the US you name today is all created as a land grant university. MIT to Berkeley to all of those kind of institutions now. So once they started to connect with the society, once they started to do research that mattered to the country, no wonder in a century time, the US overtook almost every other country and became, what it is today, right? And the India probably has found its moral movement right now. And some of our research is also becoming top down. I think otherwise most of the research that is happening in our society, I would classify it as solution looking for a problem, right? Otherwise we have solved all the problems in academia. There is no problem left to be solved. But but then now we solve a problem and then we start looking at where can I apply that solution, right? So that is how the solution looking for a problem kind of research is plenty in our institutions. What needs to be done is solution to a problem. But for that, somebody has to come and give you a problem so that the academia can actually work to solve that, right? In the absence of anybody connecting with the academia, you will never be able to find the right problems and you will never be working on the right kind of problem sets. So this is what is the problem right now. And that is, slowly changing, right? If you look at any higher educational institution, there are three aspects to that: education, research, and innovation. These are the three things that you expect a higher educational institution to perform. You provide high quality education and then you do a lot of knowledge generation, right? And then the third thing is the innovation. How do you apply this knowledge to solve a problem, right? That is what the innovation is. And while we are good at education and research now, but our biggest challenge is the innovation. We are not, applying our knowledge enough to solve any of the societal problems. So that is something that needs to change. And even if you look at India, the startups and all that, we have today over 120 unicorns, right? The $1 billion valued kind of companies. But if you look at all of these startups now, I actually did that study, less than 5% of them are actually based on an IP, right? On an intellectual property. Owning a patent and using that IP to develop a product and building a unicorn, there are only less than 5% of them. Rest of them all what I call the aggregation model, right? Somebody has come and aggregated all the restaurants, right, and started Zomato or Swiggy. Somebody has aggregated all the cars or the taxis, called it Ola. Somebody has aggregated, room booking. Somebody has aggregated hotels. These are all the aggregation kind of models. And every day somebody is aggregating dhobis, somebody is aggregating carpenters. That's how they are all building these unicorns kind of a thing. But they are actually not based on a real IP, a real innovation, right? These are all business model innovation, but they are not technology innovations. That is what is the story behind our unicorns. But who will actually do technology innovations and build, unicorns? That has to happen in the academic institutions. So academic institutions, in addition to doing education research, they also need to innovate. They need to use that knowledge, develop a new product, and then start a company, commercialize the technology, and build a unicorn. That is yet to happen. Though it's on the way, there are what we call Sunicorns now among at least our leading institutions, but we don't have any unicorns that you can name out of any top institution right now. And that is something that needs to hopefully happen today. And where we are currently is all this, the whole of this is all of this education, research, innovation, industry, society, ministries, strategic agencies, libraries, these are all very disconnected, right? So that is how our education system is right now. If at all, the research is connected with library more than with anything else, right? When a student joins our institute, what do you start with? All of you have done PhDs. The first thing is do literature survey, right? Spend a year in the library, read 100 papers. This is done, this is done, this is done, this is not done. So you do that, you publish 5 more papers, you get your degree and you graduate more students. That is how our research has been, right? So therefore, most of the research, the problems that we undertake for research originate in the library and end up in library, right? That's the only communication channel which is very well established in our academic institutions. But just imagine a situation where industry is coming and giving us problems, societal problems becoming projects here, the ministry is actively engaging with us and then working with us for research, the strategic agencies closely collaborating with us. Things would have been very, very different, in this country. All that we need to do is how do we bring them together, right? So this is the kind of an innovation ecosystem, the educational ecosystem is what that we need to create. The day we do that, right, I think our research will raise in stature. Our universities will actually become those world-class centers. But who is stopping us from doing all of that? Nobody is stopping us from doing all of that. I think we need that kind of a drive among our institutions. So I did that. For example, I was at IIT Delhi for 6 years, right? I was at IIT Bombay for 18 years. I was frustrated. I was actually, I did startups. I could get some products out into the market. And but I thought, can we do something more, at the institutional level? And so therefore, I did not hold any administrative position until I was 50 years of age. I was only a pure researcher, and I was only writing papers. I had a large research group and doing all of that. At the age of 50, I came to IIT Delhi as a director because I thought whatever I could do at my level individually, I should replicate it at the institutional level, and I started with a purpose, right? I called what I said idea factory approach. And what is an idea factory approach? To me, the idea factory approach is bring unlike minds together, people who are very dissimilar, people who don't think alike, right? Bring them all together and create the right atmosphere, but structure the interactions. If you just tell some people to collaborate, which is what you see a lot of people preaching, nothing will change, right? People will collaborate, but do what, right? So now, but you bring them together to a very structured approach, but you also, structure those interactions. You provide funding, you start measuring their outcomes, you start seeing what has happened to those collaborations and all of that. So the unlike minds, I define unlike minds as 3 different things. Different cultural background, right? People from different cultures coming together and interacting with each other. During my time, we started the first ever joint degree program with international universities. We started international PhD fellowship program. We started admitting a lot of international students, started recruiting international faculty. Even in fact, the international campus that IIT Delhi is doing, I was the one who wrote that first letter to ministry in 2020 saying that allow IIT Delhi to start a campus abroad. Because I wanted, more and more people to come and work with IIT Delhi, and they getting connected with the main campus. So that cultural diversity was what I wanted to create. Because if you go to a good American university, the first thing that strikes you is the cultural diversity. You see people from all over the world coming and studying, right? You learn so much by, just from that cultural diversity. Whereas our institutions, however good they may be, everybody is from, from the same kind of a culture, right? I mean, I used to think that there is nothing common between a Bengali and a Tamilian, right? What is common between them? They eat differently, look differently, behave differently, and speak differently, and all of that, right? But the reason why we lost that cultural diversity is it all starts with the CBSE. Right? They all read the same textbooks, go through the same curriculum, right? Once you go through the same curriculum, you read the same thing, you are examined by the same national level examination, therefore you lost half the diversity there. You start thinking alike. If any diversity was left, right, the JEE Advanced exam will kill that. Now, after the JEE Advanced and the quota training, there is nothing left. Each problem will be solved exactly the same way, whether you come from Bengal or from Tamil Nadu, because that's the only way to crack that bloody examination, right? Otherwise, how would you even solve so many questions in such a short time? There are tricks of the trade. That is what these coaching institutes teach you, and that's how you solve those problems in that short time and get ranked well and come to this institution. So, though we have people from all over the country, right, but they all think exactly alike, they solve problems alike, they have lost that diversity. That is the problem with Indian institutions. So how do we regain that diversity? Now, as if, I thought our universities were very diverse. Our universities, you go to JNU, there was so much of diversity. But thanks to UGC now, they started that CUET or some common entrance examination. I can tell you after some time, all universities will look like IITs, right? Everything will exactly look similar. These are the challenges right now. So as a country, we are very diverse. But with all these common entrance examinations, common curricula, common boards, we are basically lost the diversity right now. The only way to regain it is by at least getting people from all over the world to come and study with us, or us going out and creating campuses. And similarly, different disciplinary training, right? So during my time at IIT Delhi, we started multiple initiatives where I said, within the electrical department, the power system faculty would not collaborate with the microelectronics faculty. Both are electrical department, both work in the electrical engineering area, but the microelectronics faculty will find nothing common to work with the power electronics faculty. One is working on high power, one is working on low power. So therefore, they don't talk to each other, right? But so how do you make people to work with each other? We started a program called FIRP. the faculty interdisciplinary research project scheme, where we said that this is the FIRP program, faculty interdisciplinary research program, where I said if you collaborate with somebody who is different discipline, you get 5 lakh rupees as an incentive. 5 lakh to this person, 5 lakh to that person, you give it for 2 years, you spend 20 lakh rupees on them, but with the condition that after 2 years, you have to go out, right, and submit a project to external agency and get money, right. The success of that collaboration will be judged based on the external funding that you generated out of that collaboration. Otherwise, you collaborate, you have nice interactions and everything is close, but institute doesn't have so much of money to fund so many more projects. So we used internal funds to support faculty to just collaborate with each other, right, with the condition that after 2 years, you write external grants using such collaborations. And then we also signed MOUs with all of these institutions, with ICAR, with AIAA, All India Institute of Ayurveda, with AIIMS, with National Institute of Immunology, ILBS, RCB, with all of these institutions, we signed MOUs where we said their director, they will receive funding from their institute. We will fund our faculty to collaborate with each other. Exactly the same model. After 2 years, you go out and, seek grants from outside. We invested about 6 crores or so in funding such projects. And after 3 years, right, when we measured, the funding we were able to generate from external agencies was like 120 crores, right. So 6 crores of investment, 120 crores of external research projects, because people are now collaborating across the disciplines, right. That's all what is needed, because a lot of great things are happening at the intersection of disciplines. Within the discipline, whatever can be done is already done, right. And the intersection of different disciplines, there are great areas to work. And by bringing faculty, by incentivizing them to work with each other, right, to that small little funding, you can actually transform a culture of an institution, as that FIRP scheme, actually showed. And then, third one is different attitudes. When I say different attitudes, industry people, right? Industry people will have totally different attitude. Now, how can we bring them to work with academia? That's again another thing where we started a lot of initiatives. There were research parks we started. We started an industry day during my time. We started this process of practice position for the first time at IIT Delhi. We recruited a large number of industry professionals to come and work in the departments. They transformed the culture of some of these departments. And then we started a joint advanced technology center with DRDO, right? That is now one of the premier centers of DRDO in any academic institute. DRDO funded almost 300 crores at IIT Delhi as part of the JATC. So a lot of DRDO supported faculty projects, DRDO supported PhD students. That's all what was required, right? So once you make people to go out of their comfort zone, collaborate with somebody, right, who is coming from a different discipline or a different culture or a different attitude, I can tell you, great things will happen, because people intrinsically are very good, but they are all in their comfort zones. How do you bring them out and connect them with the external world? So that was all what was needed. And then we created an ecosystem for high-tech startups. A lot of things that we did where, faculty startups. For the first time, we started a program called FIRE at IIT Delhi. It stands for Faculty Innovation and Research-Driven Entrepreneurship. I wanted more and more faculty to start companies, to become entrepreneurs, because I had done 2 startups at IIT Bombay, and I saw the pleasure of doing all of that. I wanted more and more faculty at IIT Delhi to become entrepreneurs, right? And all that we needed to do was, we said, to do a startup, we went to board and took a permission that you can take sabbatical. Otherwise, you take sabbatical to go abroad, right? Or teach somewhere, earn some money, or write a book. We said for the first time, you can take sabbatical to start a company, right? Sabbatical means you receive salary. For 1 year, you have a fully paid salary job, right? And you can do your startup, right? We also gave them 50 lakh rupees as the equity grant, right? We take equity, so we invested in the faculty startups. And there were some departments where every 5th faculty member became an entrepreneur. Because once faculty start doing it, then the students will follow them. The PhD students, will see what the faculty are doing. They become part of these companies, and they will also want to do something similar with their research. So therefore, changing the behavior of how faculty work is very important to change the culture of some of these institutions. But that again requires incentives. Just by preaching, that you do work interdisciplinary research, you collaborate with industry, nothing is going to happen. In fact, I looked at the IIT Delhi convocation speech given by, some eminent person, said exactly the same things that the chief guest said in 2021 convocation, what the chief guest said in 1965 convocation were exactly similar. The same things, that you work with industry, you do great research, you do impactful things, you provide education, but then we need to, put money where our mouth is. The moment you do that, right, a lot of great things will happen. And I think these programs need to become national initiatives. I think that is all what is needed here. But this actually led to a lot of good things at IIT Delhi. In 5 years, when we saw that we were able to create 13 centers of excellence, 75% of faculty engaged in research, 3x increase in number of funded projects, 4x increase in number of amount of research funding, more publications. IIT Delhi filed more patents in 5 years than the previous 55 years, right? So all of these things started 350 plus industry projects and 275 plus company collaborations. All of that will change once you start incentivizing faculty to do certain things, go out of their comfort zones and collaborate with people who are unlike them, right? That unlike minds concept is what you can see it actually working here. Even during the COVID time, a lot of great things happened from IIT Delhi. We launched the first ever COVID kit, a rapid kit, and we launched the RT-PCR kit from IIT Delhi. During the peak of COVID, we filed 153 patents, the highest in the history of the institute. The technologies developed at IIT Delhi touched 10 million people during the COVID time, right? Because we only said that, if you want your laboratories to be open, right, during the COVID time, you have to work on a problem which is related to COVID, right? That was the only condition. And then we gave them funding, internal funding for them to work on COVID. So that financial incentive to work on a COVID problem and making available the laboratories made so many people to come to the laboratories during the peak of COVID and deliver all of this. And COVID over, right? But during the COVID time, the one great thing was all these faculty, the 600 faculty were working on one single problem, which is COVID. So you could see so much of impact. Once COVID over, the 600 faculty started working on 700 problems. Then, you don't see that the impact that the academia had during the COVID time. Even CSIR labs did great things during the COVID time because there was a focus, right? That is all what is missing in Indian academic system. That focus is missing because nobody is defining any problem for us, right? We define our own problem and we spend our lifetime working on it. And but if only the national level, if we are defining those grand challenges, right? If we are bringing people to work on those grand challenges, I can tell you Indian academia has tremendous potential to transform, everything in this country. But that lack of leadership in defining problems, and then bring people together to work on such problems is what is making academia, look very diffused, right? Everybody working on so many different problems of no relevance to anyone. You finally, when you ask, what have you done? Nothing really looks like any great things that have come out of academia, and that's the problem that we have. But otherwise, the inherent strength, definitely exists as COVID had demonstrated, in this same country. These were all the centers of excellence we created, and the patents, IIT Delhi was filing, 40, 50 patents. We started filing 170 patents per year. The research funding also went up, by a factor of 2 there. And then even the alumni funding became so significant during that period. So IIT Delhi's rankings also became so much better, right? They were 40, in all these rankings, IIT Delhi became better. So that's how one can actually build world-class universities. I think all that is needed is the leadership, right? And all that is needed is defining problems and bringing people together, incentivizing them to work on common problems which are of relevance to the society. I think if we are able to do that at the national level, so much of talent that exists in academia can come to fruition. So I will skip some of this, but I think I have lots of things to talk, but I think I will have to probably I will run out of time now, so I will stop here. But this is one thing which not many people know. I will stop with this slide. So the patents, right? We all keep filing patents, and you go anywhere, people ask you, but what has happened to the patents? How many patents are licensed? How much money have we earned? These are the questions that everybody faces when you are filing patents. These are the very wrong questions to ask. Nobody in the world has made money by licensing the patents. Nobody has done that, right? Who do you think would have made tons of money out of patents? Stanford, right? Stanford sitting in the middle of Silicon Valley, right? They filed over 500 patents. They must have earned a lot of money out of patents, right? So look at the Stanford data. Stanford University in 2023, compared to their total budget, right? From patent licensing, they earned 0.66% of their revenues came from patent licensing. That's all the money they earned, right? Compared to whatever is the Stanford budget, which is a few $1 billion, right? The money they earned out of patent licensing sitting in the middle of Silicon Valley with the finest ecosystem for academia industry connection, right? And great people, they earned only less than 1% of their revenues out of patenting. MIT, during that same period, again less than 1%. So no university in the world has made money by filing patents and by earning money through licensing. That doesn't happen. The only people who make money out of patents is the lawyers. Other than lawyers, nobody actually makes money out of patents. But why do you file patents then? You know, what's the point in filing patents if nobody is earning money, right? But the same Stanford, for example, right? If you look at the startups that came out of these patents, right? So your faculty member files patents, and then the students and faculty start a company, and this company sells products now, and that valuation of those companies that came out of Stanford almost like $3 trillion US, right? So the real value for patents lies in the startups. If you are not starting a company, if you are not empowered enough to start a company out of your own IP, right, you will never make money out of these patents, right? Industry is not going to come, take a patent and give you $10 million. It might happen once in a blue moon, but that you cannot build a university, with that as a revenue model. That will never happen. The real value for patenting is if you are enabling, if it enables a deep startup ecosystem, right? So that's where, the real value for Stanford lies in. $3 trillion is what the startups coming out of Stanford based on these patents is what is the total net worth for the US university, for the US system. I think that is what we need to do in this country now. Unless you develop a strong deep tech, entrepreneurship ecosystem, right? Filing more and more patents, ranking 6th or 7th in the world is not going to change anything. So we need to fund more startups. We need to encourage our faculty, encourage our scientists to start companies, right? And use that IP to start companies along with their students. And that's how students, get to know what is starting a company, what is raising money, how do you build a product, how do you build a prototype. That's how you plow that money back into the system. I think without that, publishing papers for the sake of rankings and filing patents for the sake of promotions is actually not going to make any difference to the country, and that is where we are stuck right now, in this country, and that needs to change. I think it can change, like I said, if some changes are made in the way you evaluate institutions, right? If some changes are made in the policies when it comes to entrepreneurship activities out of scientists and out of faculty, right? And policies to bring those interdisciplinary kind of aspects, bringing together our institutions to make them work with each other, right? That unlike minds kind of a concept. And if we do that, I think this country has tremendous potential, because the greatest talent lies in these institutions like CSIR, in our academic institutions, and we are not tapping that well enough in this country to for the nation's benefit. And I hope that happens as we go forward. And I hope that Vikasit Bharat that we all talk about will come out of some of these kind of initiatives. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Rao. I think it's really very inspiring to hear you bursting myths and telling us what needs to be taken forward collectively with, again, collective responsibility towards the nation. Thank you so much. I'll open up the floor for questions. First, we'll take online questions, and then we'll come back to the audience here.
In fact, on one of the slides I had, I have at least 100 more slides which I did not show there, but I will share it with you. Whoever needs it, you can actually look at them. But I talked about this conscientious research and conscious innovation, right? The innovation, needs to touch people's lives. And so how do we pick up the real problems that are of relevance to society and undertake that research and, develop solutions? I think so that's what I call the conscious innovation. I think we need to, as institutions, we need to start doing that. So, yeah.
So going ahead, we now move to our audiences, and if we have any online questions, they can please raise their hand. इसमें आप नाम दिखाओ, नेम बताओ इसमें, नेम को उस पे वो फ्लैश कीजिए. Miss Amita, Miss Amita, please switch on your camera and mic. You can please ask your question.
Oh, my video is not okay. Yeah.
I hope they will not say that your microphone was off or something like that. So they were able to hear, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
It is a very good and inspiring talk. I have a comment which I will not read out, but based on it, there are questions. My question is, how can research and teaching institutions ensure individual accountability for ethical violation without overburdening honest researchers with excessive rules and restrictions? And my second question is, what systematic changes are needed to cultivate and sustain visionary leadership in Indian academic institutions to ensure their long-term growth and resilience? Because it is usually seen that most academic institutions in India tend to flourish during their formative years, but often experience a gradual decline over time. Occasionally, a visionary leader may come reverse this trend temporarily, but there's a lack of sustained effective leadership capable of driving long-term excellence and stability. So this raises a critical concern. So
I totally agree. Yeah. So in fact, in this country now, we don't have any leadership development kind of activities, right? There was one program started by MHRD called LEAP kind of a thing, which runs once in a while, but there is no systematic way we are training our middle level scientists or the faculty members to leadership roles. There is actually no program if you think of it. And as I say that, in BITS Pilani, when I say BITS Pilani, so I come from 27 years of IIT background, right? Even if I launch something in BITS Pilani, it's a national initiative involving all the best people in the country. We are launching a program called LEAD, Leadership Development Academy. I have started an academy kind of a thing in the BITS Pilani, where I have got some of the finest minds in India come forward and organize those programs. These are 3-month training programs which run over the weekends, and we are launching one for the leadership development for academia first, right? For the middle level people to assume leadership roles, and so that program will be announced in the next few weeks. In fact, the program is now put together, and it will be announced pretty soon. It will run on the weekends online, but there is also an immersion component for 3 days. And so we are starting one LEAD because I realized that it's actually missing in the Indian system. And I have got all the who is who of Indian academic leaders who have done well in various institutions. Not everybody. So many people have become directors but did nothing, right? So I don't want everybody who became a director to be teaching there. We only want people who have transformed institutions during their tenure, right? And so those are the people I am gathering now for this program. It will launch a few weeks time. In fact, you will see all those announcements everywhere. So that's the answer to the second question. In fact, we want to start something similar for the industries also. Even the mid-level industry people, for them to assume leadership roles. I am again putting together a leadership group in that sector to do that. Similarly, the government sector, and similarly NGOs. Right? There is nobody training anybody to start an NGO in this country, if you think of it. So and NGOs have a major role to play, in any society. And even there, we are also looking at putting it together. So I am calling it an academy, a leadership academy. That academy will run these programs, certificate programs, 6 months usually, running over the weekends with some immersion component. So I think that will be announced pretty soon. The first question, what was the first question? What was that?
The first question is about how can research and teaching institution ensure individual accountability for ethical violations without overburdening honest researchers with excessive
I know,
rules?
yeah. I know that's a big challenge, but when this particular study, which I heavily quoted, which is available now, just released the Research Integrity Index, right? I looked at it. It has over 1,000 institutions ranked. Not every institution is read there. There are many institutions which are, beginning to show those signs, right? And I think, at least in BITS Pilani, what I am looking at is, I have now identified faculty. In every institute, there are always some people, who are stretching the system and looking at publishing in such journals. And in fact, I think the direct communication with them is important. And I think identifying such signs very early, right, at the leadership level, at the dean level, and then nipping that behavior in the bud at the very beginning, right, is what is needed right now. In BITS Pilani, in fact, I'm in the process of appointing what I call Research Integrity Officer. So for each campus, we are a multi-campus system. There is a Research Integrity Officer it's again a faculty member who is given that role, right, who has, very clean record and good researcher, who will actually identify, such signs and then, warn them at the very beginning itself. I think that is what is required, and we need to, nip it in the bud, whenever you see some signs of that. If you don't do that, once these people start doing it, others will learn from them, and it won't be too long before that culture will spread. So I believe every institute now, time has come to appoint those research integrity officers, whatever name you want to call that, and then start looking for such behavior, in every institution. So I think time has come for India, because as you have seen, India is already up there when it comes to the research integrity issues now.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other online question? In the meantime, sir, we would like to take one question from the chat. And this is very interesting one. It says, BITS has zero attendance policy for students. Can you share the impact of the same?
The impact depends on who you ask. You ask the faculty how impactful it is. They hate it, right? But you ask the students, they think it's a great thing, right? It depends on which side. But BITS, it is not a zero attendance policy. I know some stupid news reporter called it zero attendance policy, and then students are now, taking it as a right not to attend classes. They think the right is not to attend classes. You cannot run an institute like that. The zero attendance policy in BITS, actually the way Senate defined it was, your attendance will not be a criteria to sit for the examinations. In many institutions, you need 75% attendance even to appear for the examinations. In BITS, there is no 75% attendance rule to appear for the examinations. That was all what is that rule is. And somebody called it zero attendance policy, and students think that it's a right not to attend a class. And now getting them to the classroom is becoming a big problem right now. So there is nothing called a zero attendance policy. There is no rule, prohibiting students from appearing for the examination because of lack of attendance. That's all what is the rule in BITS Pilani right now.
All right. Thank you, sir. There's one more, though your entire lecture has mentioned about the PhD level and improving the integrity, but still, if you would like to answer this particular question by Minal Bhalerao from NCL, in brief. The last question reads, what can we do at PhD level to improve the integrity in our research?
I think you correct the faculty, right? The students will fall in line. The problem lies with the faculty members. People who are faculty members who are publishing papers in such journals, you can take it for granted the students will do the same thing, right? I think this problem needs to be addressed at the faculty level. But going one step above, I know enough vice chancellors, I know enough institute leaders who have 50% of their papers in that bogus journals in this country. There is a list, somebody has actually put together a list and all of that. When you see that somebody doing so has become, reached that highest position in that university, you are sending such a wrong message to the whole system that it's acceptable to do so, and then the faculty will follow that, and then the students will do that. I think this problem needs to be solved, top down more than the bottom up. I think the poor PhD students, I don't even blame them, because I think they are working with a faculty member who is doing that, which is what is the behavior they are emulating, and which I think you need to stop it at the faculty level. For that, I think you need to clean up the leadership, which is actually, accused of things like that. There are, enough universities which are now headed by vice chancellors, both public and private, where you can show so many such papers by them. And then how do you, expect those institutions to, actually stop that? When I see, some university has filed 500 patents, if in BITS Pilani, when we file 500 patents, I will be worried. I will not be happy about it. I will be worried, why are we filing 500 patents to start with? Because it's not possible to file 500 patents in a system like India with our level of investments. We are not investing enough. With that money, you cannot file so many patents, right? I have seen a university, private university, showing 500% increase in research over some 3 years. And now in BITS Pilani, our investments have grown by 50%. Our improvement is like 10 to 15%, right? You need huge investments to show that kind of a 500% growth. And people are showing 500% growth in research with no investments. It's just not possible. It only shows that there is something terribly wrong. And for a university leader to think that it's a great thing and then go and publicize, on every social media channel, saying that we are better than Harvard, is actually silly, right? So that is where the leadership matters, when it comes to doing anything like that. So with the investments that we are making, you can only reach certain level. You cannot do more than that. And if you are crossing that, it only means that, there are some dubious means which are being followed, to go beyond that, because research is very expensive. It's not at all easy. And, I know that because, every PhD student costs us 25 lakh rupees of investment. That's the money we pay out to a PhD student. In a private institute, where do you get that money from? You have to earn that money to hire a PhD student, right? Without PhD students, how do you publish more papers, right? And without those investments, you can never actually achieve those kind of numbers that we see, some of these institutions are showing. I think it's a major leadership crisis right now, when it comes to that.
Thank you, sir. Now moving to our offline participants, if you have any queries, kindly raise your hand. Right. Okay. Please mention your name and ask a question.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful talk. My name is Dr. Shivangi. So nowadays, many researchers have already started using OpenAI systems for writing paper and other research work. So do you think there should be some restrictions or guidelines to use the systems?
I think, the OpenAI for drafting, editing, right, is a great tool. I don't have any problem. Earlier, as PhD supervisor, my nightmare was correcting the thesis, right? I mean, the students we get, right? We get from so many states, and they are all writing their first paper with you as a supervisor. And correcting the paper used to take more time than, verifying the technical content and all of that, because you know what the student has done, there is nothing much to verify. We have discussed and the student has written. But correcting that manuscript was the biggest time spent by the faculty members. Now I don't have to do that. Now I see that everybody is writing perfect emails, right? All structured very well, right? Everybody is writing for perfect pose. Overnight, I don't know where these guys have become, Shakespeare's and so nobody is writing bad English anymore. I'm happy with that, which is okay, but sometimes it's boring. Now I want to see English which has mistakes. Now with those mistakes, you know that it's a humanized kind of a thing. So I am now dying to see emails which are not perfect in English right now. So is it bad? Is it good? I don't have any problem. But somebody copying ideas, right? Today you cannot write a paper by just using OpenAI. I mean, you can easily be caught. That these tools haven't reached a stage where it generates a new idea, writes a paper which goes through a review process. Is not possible. I mean, you can try with any of the tools. I don't know what will happen in the future, but you can make out that it's all fake. So the one reading, you will know that it's fake. So but using it to improve, correct the draft, right, that you have put together, I don't see any problem with it. In fact, I encourage my students, because I think, you don't have to waste time in, earlier we used to give those papers to the draft writers. We used to hire, what people who would correct the thing. I used to pay them in IIT Bombay, also in IIT Delhi, because I did not want to spend so much of time correcting the English. And then they used to do the correcting, and then it was easy. Now that's being done by ChatGPT. Somebody has lost job because of ChatGPT, but I don't have any problem with as long as it is improving the draft.
So what sir is saying is, put your wisdom and you're allowed to use ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideas are yours. The language can be.
Ask a question.
Okay.
Professor, I am a student of humanities and working in a scientific organization like CSIR. My question is inspired by your idea of creating beauty by putting unlike minds together. Do you see the possibility of creating an essential component of humanities for the students of science in IITs or in universities teaching higher education, or an essential component of science for the students of humanities in near future in Indian universities or higher education?
No, that's a good point.
Educational institutions like IITs.
No, I got your point. So,
and the second thing, this is related to this. Do you see the possibility of teaching some essential lessons of music to the student of physics? When I see C.V. Raman writing 7 or 8 or 9 papers and publishing in journals like Journal of Cultivation of Science and Mathematical Journal of Mathematical Club in Nature, papers on Iktara, papers on Mridangam, papers on Veena. Do you see this possibility of teaching some essential component of music to the student of physics? Do you see this possibility of teaching some ornithology, some studies about birds to a student of physics who should be inspired by this ornithology, by this behavior of birds, for doing some research in avionics, in aerospace, etc., etc.? This is a question from a student of humanities.
No, that's a very good point. On the humanities front, I have a track record in IIT Delhi. You can talk to the humanities faculty there. When I went to the department, their complaint was nobody listens to us. We are like a service department, right? In an engineering institute, where humanities department, other than teaching some courses to undergrads, we have no importance in that. And look at our counterparts in JNU, right? JNU is all a humanities kind of a thing. So in IIT, we are just a service department. So that was the complaint. And to me, I have a lot of respect for humanities faculty. Of course, I also told them that humanities faculty in an engineering institute, humanities faculty in a liberal arts university like JNU need to behave differently, right? Now you are in the midst of all these engineers in IIT Delhi, right? Now you can take up problems which are of different nature as compared to faculty in the JNU, because different institutions, different cultures, there is nowhere it said that everybody should do similar kind of things. My challenge to them was, here is, we had at that time the Institution of Eminence scheme. We received 1,000 crore grant from Government of India. We said, here is 5 crores of funding for the humanities department. And you initiate projects now, and these projects initiated by humanities department must have engineering faculty and science faculty as in the team, right? If together with the engineering and science faculty, if you propose a problem statement, and if that problem is, goes to the review process, considered to be important, you will receive funding, but the projects must originate in the humanities department. I can tell you they came up with such excellent projects, because in an IIT system, our window to the society is the humanities department. Otherwise, engineers, working with the machines, they actually behave like machines. They lose that sensitivity to anything. When my wife sends me a nice photograph, my immediate question is, what camera has she used to take that photograph? I don't even look at how beautiful that flower is, how beautiful that nature is, because after so many years of being an engineer, training with the machines, I am more interested in the camera behind that photograph than the photograph itself. That is what many of us eventually become. Now, these guys will never know the farmer's problem. They will never know what is the problem in the society. right? They will never know any of that. So our window to the society are actually the humanities departments, and strengthening these departments is very, very important. And a all-round curriculum in IIT Delhi, 15% of credits, right, for any BTech program were actually by the humanities faculty. IIT Delhi had a very good system of that, and they had these non-graded units, NGU system, which were also very good syllabus-wise. I think some of these, that makes you all-rounded, right? And if you are a civil engineer, right, I know how to build a bridge, but I don't know what that bridge will do to the people around that, right? How many people get displaced, what it does to the ecology of that region. If I don't understand all of that, I'm not a good civil engineer, right? Just building with concrete a bridge, not worrying about people living around the bridge does not make anybody a great engineer. Otherwise, or I develop a system for agricultural sensors, right? If those sensors are polluting the soil, right? They help the farmer. Of course, they will do NPK sensing, they do moisture sensing and all of that, but the materials I use are polluting the soil. I'm not a great engineer, I have not done anything great, right? That is what I call the conscious innovation. So I think we need to put humanities departments along with engineering departments to solve these problems. It's very, very important in my opinion. Your other idea about having artists, in fact, many institutions do that now. There are processes of practice who are all artists. And IIT Delhi, Speak Mackay originated out of IIT Delhi. And so that culture is there. I think we need to do that more. We are not doing it enough. I agree with you. We need to do that more, the second part of it. But humanities, I think, needs to get integrated with the engineering curriculum. More and more so right now.
So there's one question from Dr. Anirban Pal.
Thank you, sir. Sir, science with conscience. My conscience doesn't allow to pay for publications. But the recent trend is we have to pay for every publications if it is a good journal, I would say. Like, even if it is an impact factor of 3 or 4 minimum, they have started asking for money. So how do we go about it, sir?
Yeah. I think this paying thing has come right now. I have written 500 papers. I have never paid for any paper. Never. Zero payments. I have always published in IEEE journals, right? IEEE journals, the author doesn't pay, right? The people who are reading it need to be IEEE members to read the papers, or outside IEEE community, they have to pay for that. So that's one model. The model is where I don't pay, the author does not pay, but the readers will pay, right? That's how IEEE society works. Because it's a society, the charges are not much, it's all working very well. But this paying model has come now these days, again driven by the rankings. Why do you want to pay? Because if you pay to publish, these are good journals. Keep in mind that not all paid journals are bad, right? Even for nature index journals, right? Even for good journals, you pay the access fee, the APR, the author fee, right? That enables the journal to make it open access, so anybody can see those papers, right? So that helps, because then you see more people reading your paper, your citations will go up. And because rankings now heavily depend on citations, many universities are now subscribing to open access policies so that your citation counts go up, which helps you improve the ranking. So the Government of India now has the open access policy, and CSIR, I'm sure, is part of that. So any paper you file right now will become open access because of the.
That's the main problem for us actually. Why pay 2.5 lakhs for a journal? Why not pay that amount for a consumable amount?
Like I said, I don't pay. So but.
Years back, it was the situation. I understand.
I know.
For the past 1 year, past 1 or 2 years, this has been a trend now. Even the normal journals.
That's because of the citations. If you want your paper to be open access, somebody has to pay eventually. Either the author pays or the readers pay. There are these kind of models right now. But I mean, would I still pay? I know, no, but I know I do not want to talk about the entire spectrum, but my area, electrical engineering, electron devices, sensors, I have all these nice IEEE transactions or IEEE sensors kind of journals, which are very well thoroughly reviewed. Their impact factors may not be 7, 10 kind of a thing, but they're all decent impact factors. And my community reads those papers, and I am quite fine with it. I have never paid any money to any paper so far. Possible. I think I am not a Sadguru that I have solutions to all the problems. As well, I don't know solutions to all the problems, but I know limited problems and limited solutions also.
So before we finally close this question answer session, there's one last question we can take from chat. It says, sir, how faculty startup and entrepreneur ecosystem works for CSI labs and how impactful it is?
I think that you may be able to answer better. I think I know that you don't even have a opportunity to start companies. You are still struggling. A lot of good CSIR labs, I can't believe that they are not allowed to have incubators, right? I mean, you have one incubator in NCL, but many even DST institutes are struggling to start incubators. I think these are all problems created by some bureaucrats sitting in Delhi with no idea, no vision, no understanding of any science or any technology, right? I mean, these are the problems of some bureaucrats' creation. So if you ask me, I think that's the way you can commercialize your patents. Otherwise, patents will never see the light of the day. So
I will ask. Felicitation. All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao, for this very inspiring talk. I think you provided a solution to many problems of the CSIR, and have also given a way forward. Thank you so much. I would now like to request Professor Agarwal to say a few words before we go on with the felicitation.
A very good evening to one and all. Thank you, Dr. Vishwajanni, for giving me this opportunity. Respected Dr. Rao, Professor Dhar, all the division heads, JS, FA, and representative from different labs and the research students who are joining this talk. We all know about Dr. Rao, his rich experience as IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai, and now at BITS Pilani. We know him as an accomplished scientist, accomplished researcher, accomplished administrator, but I think today his professorial skills we have all seen. You know, when a professor is in the class and when he comes out, we talk about APARs, annual performance reports. But I think a professor every day gets appraised. So when he comes out of the class, he knows what has he done. So I think today Professor Rao must have seen the kind of magic he has spelled in the whole, in the audience. The presentation was so systematic, and like a professor, it is going in a very smooth way so that everybody can understand. So sir, I truly enjoyed your lecture. And
I need to say that somebody said, a good lecture is jab dukhi atma pe upar haath rakhte na. That's when you touch the hearts, kind of a thing.
Right, truly. Well said. So in his lecture, the topic itself, science with conscience, fostering integrity in innovation. I think the word conscious captures the whole presentation. He talked about publication, he talked about patents, he talked about innovation, he talked about NIRF ranking, NAC ranking, innovation, industry academic collaboration, etc., etc. He basically touched each and every point. But if we look deeply, whatever was established with a good sense, publications, we should publish, University Grants Commission or other institutions made it mandatory to publish so that a quality work, the researchers should know that they should publish their work. Similarly, ranking, the quantity, as Dr. Rao mentioned in his first slide, the first point was the number of institutions in the country. But the number was there, the quantity was there, quality. So it has to be ranked, so the quality should come. Similarly, patents, it's an indicator how to measure. So I think all these are measurable points. The intent was good, but the conscience was not there. When we go for NIRF ranking or NAC ranking, had we not adopted misconduct, mispractices, so I think this system would have been very, very good. It would have been an excellent system. Similarly, publication we talk, students were producing PhDs without publishing a single paper. UGC came that we should publish at least 2 research papers, and they gave the CARE list also, and SCI journals, Scopus journals, etc., etc. But I think outside every university, outside every institution, there was a publishing house. They were publishing theses, they were publishing papers, so 2 papers became ridiculed. So, the whole system. So we know how to, discard the system, how to abuse the system. Therefore, I think the science with conscious, that's the root of this whole presentation, that every one of us must take the responsibility that whatever I do in my lab, whatever I publish, whatever I patent, whatever the procedure is, at least I am doing my part with the 100% conscious. That should be there. So that is the one thing I wanted to say. The other thing, he said everything basically, the good thing of the Indian system and the weaknesses of the Indian system. When he says we are the number 3rd in terms of publication. But at the same time, he highlighted the percentage of GDP we are spending on R&D, the number of scientists per million population. So that means a very small section of the society with a very small amount of funding is carrying out a research and getting the 3rd position. So 3rd position in numbers. So I think we are doing a great job. But now we should focus on the quality. We are at number 3rd in quality, but the quantity, but the quality should also be measured now. He talked about R&D investment from industry side is minuscule. I would like to quote the example of, not the example, the conversation between Swami Vivekananda and G.R.D. Tata. They both were traveling in the same ship going to Japan, and Swami Vivekananda asked G.R.D. Tata, why are you going? Where are you going? So that time he was trying to establish the steel plants in the country. So he said, like, I'm going there for the technology and learning the know-how. Swami Vivekananda used 3 words, yantra, tantra and mantra. He said, when you go there to seek knowledge, you will get yantra and tantra, but you will not get the mantra, which is the knowledge. So indigenous knowledge has to be established, and that what Dr. Rao has emphasized in a very big way, that when we do in the higher education system, basically he focused a lot, that we must know the knowledge, R&D and innovation. So that mantra has to be brought from within the country, not buying outside. So industry must play a very major role. Sir, I would like to say from CSIR point of view, we are talking about journals. You have also told that the myth now we have about the impact factors and about the H index, I index, citations, etc., etc. And Dr. Anirban also talked about the papers which are asking for the money. Right? We are talking about open access. But CSIR since 1942 is publishing research journals, and this is the only institution in the Southeast Asia which publishes 18 journals without charging a single penny from the author, from the reader. So why don't we take it as our personal responsibility to strengthen our own journals where you don't have to pay? And it's not, I'm not limiting myself to CSIR. I'm saying that there are hundreds of journals, quality journals in India, but we are not nurturing our own publications. China is doing it, but we Indians are still somehow are mesmerized by the Western science, Western publications, and we want to publish only on those journals. So we should have policy where our researchers must publish a small amount of good quality work in Indian journals. And also the policy that when we are recruiting people, we are not only talking about कितना पोस्ट डॉक विदेश में किया है, कितने जर्नल्स आपने इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर 10 में लिखा है, 15 में लिखा है. We should have a policy that every researcher should have published at least 1 or 2 papers in Indian journals. So if we inculcate that confidence into the society that the work being carried out by them in India, publishing in India, patenting in India, innovating in India will getting the same recognition during recruitments, during promotions, I think that will bring a very good culture in the society and that will help our ethics also in a way. Sir, you also talked about bringing diversity and you talked about Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. During your tenureship as IIT Delhi, CSIR signed an agreement with Unnat Bharat Abhiyan where we started disseminating CSIR technologies with the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan help, and we are reaching to different parts of the country. And we have disseminated several CSIR technology skill building programs across the country. Just yesterday, I got a call from Andaman Nicobar. We had a technology showcasing session there with the help of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and they were asking, is CSIR having a technology to produce biofuels from seaweed? So, you know, diversity of people coming together and trying to understand. And the last thing, celebrating science, it's very important. Dr. Rao also mentioned it that we scientists are, not considered as celebrities. But I think after COVID, after ISRO's big events like Chandrayaan and others, now society is ready to look at the science and the scientists with a great respect. I will end up with this Bollywood phenomena. So many movies are coming out, Mangalyaan and Rocketry, Rocket Boys, The Man Who Knew Infinity, etc., etc. And all these are super duper hits. So that means the society is now respecting the science and respecting the scientist. So I think together, all of us with the consciousness to promote Indian science, Indian technology, Indian innovation should work together so that India makes really Vishwaguru. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Professor Agarwal, for your lovely words, summarizing Professor Rao's talk and as well as your own inspiring words to kind of take CSIR to the next level where ethics and science with the conscience is concerned. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to request Deepti for the felicitation. Can you please come forward? Thank you, Professor Rao, once again. And now I'll request my colleague Vandana to propose a vote of thanks.
Not taking much of time, I will just wind up soon because it's already 5 p.m. I propose vote of thanks on behalf of myself being member secretary of CSIR SEC, headquarter SEC. And I first of all like to thank Professor Rao, who has took time out from his so much of busy schedule. He has personally come here from Pilani and had agreed to deliver his experience at IITs and with Pilani, his all research experience, administrative experience, how to maintain ethics at workplace, and what we can do to maintain ethics at CSIR in that perspective, I would thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring lecture, and hope it has created some knowledge process in our mind to think how do we maintain while working for society and country, how do we maintain ethics in our research so that we are not getting blamed for all those scientific misconduct. That needs to be taken care of by all our scientists. And I hope all those online and offline participants of CSIR family who are joining this program are hearing this, and they will be going back to their lab. They will mobilize all their scientists and staff and research students under them how to maintain ethics at whatever work they are conducting in their laboratories. Now, secondly, I would like to thank Professor Anjana Agarwal, who had the last moment agreed to preside this function, and I'm heartfully thankful to her and for this occasion. Next, I will thank Dr. Viswajanni, Chairperson SEC. She has been quite active in approaching different types of experts and bringing them to our forum, and so that they give inspiring talks and our researchers are able to maintain ethics at their workplace. So thank you, Dr. Janni, for all your encouragement for CSIR headquarters SEC. Now, any program cannot be completed unless I thank all the participants who are directly or indirectly involved in this program. And I thank all the CSIR headquarters, especially JS sir, who have been instrumental and in guiding support in all our scientific matters, and his division and all the central office, civil section, general section, all these people, they are the behind success for this program, which is held physically for the first time in CSIR headquarters. Thank you all. Next, I would like to thank all the SEC members who have been instrumental in organizing this program, working for this program, and all my IMD team who are the back force for organizing this program. Then the next group of acknowledgement is required, is due for IT, who has been able to handle all this online job very perfectly. Though there were some glitches, anyway, that is the part and part process of our life. But ultimately, all things have gone fair, and everybody was able to join and enjoy this and have inspiring talk by Professor Rao. So thank you, IT Division, for all your continued support. And lastly, I will thank all the audience, all the HODs who have taken time out, and all dignitaries, FA sir, JS sir, and all the other directors, and some SEC members of our local labs are also there, it seems, but I don't recognize them as such, but they are there, I think. So thank you all for coming and joining in person here and finding time from your busy schedule. So, and lastly, to all my CSIR headquarter family who have joined us, and I hope along with us scientists, you are also a part of team, and thus you have to also maintain ethics at your workplace. That needs to be seen. So don't think that it is only the area of scientists which needs to be taken care of. It is the area of the entire CSIR family who needs to maintain ethics, not only in the research as well as in governance system also. So thank you very much. So please, I would request now to finally all the dignitaries to join at 101 for a brief interaction with Professor Rao, and all the other CSIR family members to take their refreshment before they leave. Thank you very much.
I'd request all the HODs and the scientists who have officials who have come from the labs to join us in 101. DG CSIR will be there for the interactions and the